Hello everybody, in today's video I'm going to be doing another watercolor painting video, and this time, since currently in time of recording this, it is May, and for the last couple of years I've been doing a certain thing for May which goes around in the art community. See, sometimes you may have seen it before, which they call it Mermay, where you do a whole bunch of sort of ocean themed drawings or artworks based on mermaids, essentially, or ocean type stuff. So I wanted to continue that tradition again, as last year I painted up a miniature on sort of my memory based on the Little Mermaid and painted it up to look like the Little Mermaid from what I could remember from memory. But this year I wanted to do an actual regular artwork piece, and this one is going to be watercolor. And as you can see, I've given a little sketch here, and I wanted to have this mermaid looking out over the ocean and sort of watching a sunrise or sunset, depending on how you want to look at it, coming up and just having it just a nice sort of, hopefully try and come up with a nice scene of this mermaid looking at the sun either setting or rising over in the distance. And I think for the colors I've gone here, I think I'm going for more of a sunrise sort of feel, but that's totally up to your interpretation here. But as you can see, I'm just trying to get in the blockiness and where we're going to have our main colors started out, and I wanted to work from the background to the foreground, probably switch up some of the elements in here, but I really wanted to establish the where that sun is going to be off in the distance looking at, because I feel like if I come in with it in a different way, I'd sort of lose a little bit of focus on where I'm painting and maybe making it just a little bit off. So I wanted to work from that background, you know, the big nice wide open area, so I can hopefully get it all within the frame and have it sort of like framed right, like compositionally right, for the whole piece of the artwork. So once I'd gotten that area where I wanted that sunrise to essential sunset, depending on which way you want to interpret it, to be, is now time where I want to start working on the ocean that she's looking over. Now, of course, I needed to make this a different color because I wanted to, you know, separate out the sky from the ocean. And of course, since we're working with a lot of blues here, you want to try and separate them out a little bit, which is why I think I went for more of like a early morning sunrise sort of feel, with having that really dark blue sort of sky with the nice like sunburst yellow coming up through there. And I wanted the ocean to be really blue, and this is where I came to the point where I was trying to figure out, do I want it to be like a big ocean with like nice big waves crashing over it and that sort of feel, like this rough ocean sea, or do I want it to be sort of like calm and serene and try and make it look like the ocean's just sort of in a more still sort of fashion? And I ended up by going with that still calm sort of look, because I want it to look like a nice calming scene as this mermaid is watching the sunrise, because by this point I'd realized it's probably more of a sunrise. I want to go with that sort of feel, and I wanted to make it look like this nice calming sort of thing that she's looking at over in the distance as the sun's coming up and she's resting on this rock, just taking in the beauty of this sunrise. So that's what I tried to go with here. So keeping my brush strokes here very even and smooth, and just really trying to smooth out that area of the water, trying to keep it calm and not worrying about too much ripples. If I wanted to add in more ripples and that sort of thing, I'd be a little bit more erratic with the brush and probably come in with a drier brush so I can get some more of that texture on it. But I want it to be sort of very smooth and like nearly glassy. Like, I don't want it to be 100% glass like, but just glassy enough, like, so it looks like we're looking over this nice calm ocean. So now that I have the big background areas all blocked in and have them very close to how I want them, I can start working on a little bit more of the foreground elements, but still want to working on some of the bigger parts. And since I want to, of course, make the mermaid the most sort of detailed everything in the artwork. I want to focus on the next area where the detail can be a little bit more but doesn't need to be as much, and that's why I'm going to go with the nice rock that she's sitting on here. So giving, of course, trying to just match everything up, sort of adding a little bit of blue into my color palette here to try and tie it in with like the wetness of the water and just the colors of the ocean in general, and then mixing it in with some grays and browns to try and hopefully make it a little bit more visually interesting. And it's just a matter of being careful for me and not painting too much over the mermaid herself as I'm trying to paint in this scene with the nice big rocks that she's sitting on, keeping it sort of relatively simple because I'm not going to worry too much about the detail here, but making sure that I try and add in a few of the other colors here, give it that little bit of visual interest on the rock itself. So now is the point where I come to painting up the mermaid herself, and this was a thought experiment, I guess. I didn't know what color to do her hair like that. Like, there's so many options. If my first instinct was to sort of go for a red hair and give off, you know, the Ariel from the little mermaid feeling, but I was like, no, I need to separate. That's sort of what I did last year with the miniature I painted. So I wanted to switch that up a little bit, but also go with a color that's going to have a little bit of eye-catching ness to it. So that's why I went with sort of a more vibrant brown and not a super desaturated color, but something that's, you know, going to stick out on the page in terms of this itself. So we've got something visually interesting to look at on the piece, but it's not going to be 100% clashing with everything on here. Give it a little bit of harmony and add in a little bit of warmth of color. So I went with a nice sort of a warmish brown here to tie in to the scene, since we're using a lot of cold colors everywhere, so making her visually pop out that little bit more with going some of those warmer colors and adding in some darker colors here and there as we slowly detail in her hair, but getting those nice base colors out, especially with this painting that I'm doing here of her. As this is just a pencil sketch, and then I'm going in and I decided I didn't want to do any line work for this, and I wanted to try and just use the watercolors itself as all of the artwork there. So practicing some of that, so I haven't really done that too much, just seeing if I can do outlining and bits like that without any line work, because I do a lot of my artworks, I always outline everything, so I want to try and bring that sort of painterly style in with not doing that this time and just going with the straight watercolor itself. So once I was happy with the way I had her hair, I actually want to do this little trick here to add in the sun itself. And what this is I've gotten something that's circular in nature, and I've wrapped it around a wet paper towel, and what I'm doing is hard pressing this into the artwork, and since we're using watercolor, it's actually going to lift up a lot of the pigment that's on the page, and I can use that as a guideline area to come in with a wet brush and use it to slowly mix in with itself and lighten up the entire area, giving it a white out. It's sort of like how you would use an eraser essentially in the watercolor painting way, is by using a paper towel here and using it to suck out the pigment that is on the page by having it just slightly dampen. It lifts up that color, sort of like I said, using it as an eraser. It's a cool little technique I have learned, and I thought I'd show you guys how I've done it here. And as you can see, just by dabbing it slowly in, you slowly lift up that pigment and you can bring it back to a whiter color, and I think that works great because it's still going to of course have pigment up there. You're not going to lift up 100% of everything, but it's going to give you that nice lighter contrast to the entire piece, and have that there is clearly a sun that's burning bright against that nice yellow background. Okay, so now we've gotten that sun nicely in there, and I'm pretty happy with how I want it there. I didn't want it too strong in the reflection on the water. I just wanted a little bit there so we can clearly see that the sun is being reflected in the water, but having a lot of that sun with the whiteness now. But now that I've done that, I'm going to move on to the skin tone of the mermaid herself. This is always a hard thing to me, try and mixing any sort of skin tone, as I very often either go with weird orangey colors or just straight browns, and it's really hard to come up with an actual skin tone for me itself. I'm still new to working with watercolors and mixing colors in general, because I'm a miniature painter and they have, you know, a number of paints for every skin tone under the sun, and this involves a lot of mixing colors and trying to figure it out for myself. Really cool for learning and growing my art knowledge, but when I'm still new to this, it's always a bit of a tricky thing to figure out for me this far. Hopefully eventually I will get better down the line as we go. And then I'm just coming in here and picking out. Now, since I've gone in with the sketching of the mermaid itself as well, I have to come in and make sure I come up with shadow colors to work in the shadows of her skin tones in those areas. And I also need to pick out the areas that are the edges of the painting itself that I would usually do in line art, since I'm not doing any line art. So I've got to come up with a darker color but still resembles the skin tone itself, so it doesn't look too wacky and out of place, because I didn't want to have this in line art. I want to try my hand at sort of that painterly style. So coming up with that too was also an interesting bit of challenge of being steady enough with my brush, and since we're using watercolors, not having it bleed all over the place too was another tricky challenge for me in doing this, as watercolor, especially if you're using it with everything wet, of course has the tendency to spill out everywhere too. So just practicing that sort of technique has been an interesting opportunity for me as well in this artwork. Okay, so now it's just the bottom half of our mermaid here to do, and I want to do this in another striking color, because like I said, I need her to stand out as she's in the foreground and make her stand out from everything in the back. So rather than going with a bluish or turquoise sort of tone, I went with a straight green for this. I thought that would really contrast against everything here, and would also work in with her sort of reddish brown hair I've got, and that warmer tones in some of her skin. I thought that would work quite well together, hopefully anyway. That's my theory behind the colors that I've done here. Like I said, I'm still new to doing this type of art, so I'm trying to get everything here and try to make everything look nice and pleasing to the eye as well, because my art history has sort of just been using like sketchbooks and just sketching on random bits of paper, and I've only ever really used pencil before, and the odd time I used coloring in pencil back when I was a lot younger. So new to a lot of all this nice fancy artwork, and doing a lot of things in color, because I want to have nice types of artworks, and I want to explore color and really push my artistic abilities right up to the limit and really improve upon them to where I want to get to. So I have to step outside of my regular comfort zone and push myself all the time. Whether they look good or not is totally up to you, but I need to do a lot of this practice, and I'm never going to get anywhere if I don't practice any of these types of things. So using colors all the time in my artworks lately is really, I think, been helping me in pushing forward with my artistic journey. So another thing in doing this artistic journey of mine I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to improve all my artwork, is learning how to improve upon where I would naturally go with my piece. So I was really happy with how it was just here, and I thought it needed a little bit more. I know it needed a little bit more something, but I was a little too scared that I was going to start messing it up now, because I was quite happy with how it was, but it needs that little bit more detail. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to add in some scales to the mermaid and her lower half there. So what I did is come in with a nice finer tip brush and just dotted in some scales. Now, this is something I definitely wouldn't usually do, because I was quite happy with where it was. I had that look to it that I was really happy with, but it just needed that little bit more, and I have to push myself to add more details in things. So learning that, and I've got to improve my art here, and I was worried, especially with watercolor, a medium I'm still getting used to, as that can very easily vary the different size, but I have to learn to trust myself, go with things like this to improve myself, because I'm never gonna improve myself if I don't test the boundaries of what I can do and end up with things that I like. So hopefully this little last minute addition here has made it that little bit more interesting as well to the piece. I think it actually came out not too bad, considering it's my first attempt adding in extra bits and details on things. But with all that, we have come to the end of our artwork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a sort of a nicer picture of it, so you can get the full image on the entire piece and just look over the artwork itself. So let's get into that. And there you have it, everyone. There is my final finished piece of my mermaid looking out over the ocean at the sunrise. So I hope this video has been interesting for you to check out and watch my artistic journey as I try and learn some more art techniques and improve on my artwork that little bit more. Maybe this video is giving you some inspiration to try and do something either for Mermay or just try out some paintings for yourself. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.